All right, we'll get started for today. I do need to let's see, I think at summer, I think I think for both those Zoom classes for last week, I saw that you started watching the video, but I still don't see an answer on there. So make sure when you get a chance, you go back on there and you finish the question at the end of the video, because I can't give you credit until that question is answered. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So, um, first off, if hopefully nobody has any questions, but just in case you do have any questions, I did change the layout a little bit of the modules, and I hope it's not confusing to you guys. But essentially, because I have sophomores and juniors in two different sections taking this class. I have the first date will be, the sophomores, your guys's, and then the second day will be my juniors. So just pay attention to the day that, of course, you would be here. So that's what we did last week. The intro native studies, and then Tuesday we just we're chatting, so it's just a Zoom class. And then today is the alternative to history assignment is what we'll start out with, and then we'll just kind of chat and do something for this second part of class today. So you can see easy by looking at these little headers here, what needs to be done each day. So hopefully that will help you guys know what you need to do each day. I think I'm going to I don't know. I was thinking about having Mondays be green, Tuesdays be yellow, and homework basically are things that you don't do on Monday, Tuesday, things that you do on Wednesday or Thursday if we have them. I'm not gonna have too much, but I'll have them every now and then. Those will be a different color, just so you guys can get your attention caught. I might actually change this to green, so it's only two different colors. Anyways, you guys don't need to worry about that too much. But hopefully that doesn't get too confusing for you guys. So what we're going to do for the first part of class today, actually, let's do first today in the news, or today in history. In 1840, part of Antarctica was claimed by the U.S. A lot of countries were sending explorers down to Antarctica and saying like, oh, this area is my country, this area is claimed by my country. And really, we claimed it, but it doesn't mean that it actually is ours, because unless you can defend it, it's not yours, and we can't defend it. No other country can defend part of Antarctica. It's the only landmass not controlled by a country. So today, no country has any claims over it. But we were like, oh, we're gonna put like a base, and we do still kind of have like a base there for U.S. explorers who go down there. But I mean, it's not, people don't inhabit it regularly. They just can go there as a stop if they are going down to there to explore. Today in the news, tomorrow is Joe Biden's inauguration. So if you are interested, you can watch that. It'll certainly be a different inauguration than the ones in the past for two reasons. A, from security from the Capitol riot and siege that happened 2 weeks ago. And B, it'll be different because of COVID and no spacing and limits of who can go and whatnot. I don't even know what it's going to, I haven't looked at the rules for the people who are going to go watch and just be there. So anyways, that's what's going on tomorrow. And in case you didn't know, inauguration, that kind of means like a swearing in, like, or like a beginning, like they're welcomed into this new role kind of thing. That's what inauguration means. So yeah, tomorrow will be the very beginning of Joe Biden's presidency. Okay, so what we're going to do at the beginning of class today, just to start it, is I wanted to do this last week, but we ran out of time. This alternative to history assignment. So what this is, going into it, is you're going to answer this question. If the Europeans hadn't come to the Americas in the 14 to 1600s, in this age of exploration, how would history and the present be different? So that is your main question to answer in this paragraph. You're only writing one paragraph. So these right here have questions to consider. You can use these to help you figure out what to write. If you're like, I don't know what to write. So you basically will just answer this complete sentence form in a paragraph. This last one isn't a question, but it is a fact. But keep considering this. Basically, we talked about in world history, we talked about this age imperialism where European countries were trying to dominate Africa, right? We had that Africa imperialism assignment. They also, European countries also conquered, or not, well, colonized Australia, India, a lot of the islands that are near Australia. So like Indonesia, that area. So a lot of areas that were already like heavily like were established, they were colonized at one point. So keep that in mind when you're writing. So I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes. Okay. That's plenty of time. That will allow lots of time for you to just think of what you think could have happened. What do you think would be different? What would be the same? What would be the status of peoples? What would happen in the US, this area? You know, what would it look like? What would it be? Who would govern it? Or would it be one nation or multiple nations? You know, what would be different, basically? So that is what you're going to do right now. You can either write it on a piece of paper and then bring it in next time you come to the school within a week, or you can type it up on here. So that's your choice of how, if you want to write it or type it up on here. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay, we'll get started. You got 15 minutes, so go ahead and get started. As soon as you're done, type in the chat to let me know that you're done. Okay, I wish that I had a document camera, but we don't. And I did send a copy of a paper in case either of you guys pick things up from the school, but it's not necessary. It's not even for a grade. So what we're going to talk about next is regions in the US that are basically tribal regions. I have a map that I'm going to use to show you guys. Let's see. This one will be good. Unfortunately, that one's not labeled, but oh well. Okay, so this map right here that you guys see is showing different areas, different regions of the oh, okay, perfect. All right, Kylinda, thank you. We're gonna keep going, Kylinda, but yeah, definitely finish up as well and kind of listen in at the same time. So each of these sections is a region. Now let's think back to our geography class. Do either of you guys remember what a region is? What we could define as a region? Okay, so coming together or something in common, right? So definitely. So each of these regions, now they may not come together like physically coming to the same spot, although sometimes they have met. Usually in each of these regions, the tribes are at least pretty familiar with each other. So each of these regions, a region is basically something you have in common with each other, something that is the same, they're connected in some way, right? There's that connection. So each of these regions has a connection with all the tribes that are in that region. So the connection is something is similar. And for the most part, these tribal regions are connected because of, let's see, what should we call it? Shoot, I'm just losing my train of thought just all the time here, guys. They're usually in tribal regions because they have something like their way of living, like their structures of their house, or the things that they eat, or even what kind of areas that they live, or things things that are similar about them, that they could be, you know, all of these tribes basically they eat this, or they have homes that use this type of material for their homes. You know, there's something that they have connected or this or similar between that area, between that group. Now we know that not every tribe is the same. In fact, there's so many different tribes, and each tribe has their own specific way of doing things. However, it is important to know that there are certain similarities between these tribal regions, within the tribal regions. So if you guys look at these maps here, you will find that not one of these are the same, right? I mean, looking at them, you can kind of see some similarities, like this one and this one. They both have like this center area. They both have like this area here and two sections right here and right here. You know, this one has that too. Each of these different maps that show tribal regions, they're different because there's different interpretations of where these regions are at. No, I mean, they're not crystal clear like, hey, this tribe, this tribe, this tribe, oh, you guys are in this region, these tribes are in this region. No, that's not really how it works. These lines are very flexible, very movable. So it's according to one person's, you know, interpretation as to where those regions are. So the map that I have, let's see, where's the one that there was one that I liked more than the others, just because it was easier. And now I don't know where it is. I should have found it earlier. It's similar to another one up there, but it's similar to this one right here. So in this map, you'll see different regions, and I was hoping that it would let me zoom in a little more. Oh well. Okay, so you'll see Northwest Coast up here, which is basically the edge of Washington and Oregon, but it also goes up into Canada right here. All of these, they go up into Canada. This, you know, goes down into Mexico, same as right here. So they've got the California region here, Plateau region right here, Great Basin, Southwest, Great Plains, Eastern Woodlands or Northeastern Woodlands, and then the Southeast. And then we also, it doesn't show it in here, but Alaska would be the either the Alaskan region or Arctic region. It's called both ways. So these are kind of the more accepted. Now, the Ute tribe is right here. It's mostly considered a Great Basin tribe, but because of once the tribe, and it wasn't originally a Great Basin tribe, it was mostly on the edge right here, living in the mountains, but the outskirts of the tribe was in the basin, so it did include more of the basin rather than the plains. And it wasn't until the Utes got the horse from the Spanish that they started going out more and distancing further, and that's when they started incorporating plains. The Plains tribes way of life. For example, the Sundance we got from Plains tribes, the TP we got from them. So a lot of culture is mixing between these groups, and that is the same with every single tribe. There's always a tribe that is mixed with another tribe, where it's not just purely like we do our own thing and we've never adapted anything or adopted anything. So, you know, that's just one case study. So we're going to have a little activity where I'm going to see where you remember these to be at. So keep this in mind as we're talking. So I'm going to share with you guys some information about some of these regional groups, just to tell you guys about kind of who they are. If we were in class, I'd have you guys in groups and, you know, read about a specific region and then teach it to the class, but we don't have groups because we're so spread out and we're online. So it doesn't work that like that this time. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of talk about some of these regions. I'm not going to talk about all of them because there's not enough time, but I'll talk about some of the regions and kind of introduce you to their lifestyle, what typically went on in the tribes that are in that area. So let's start first with the California tribes over here. So keep in mind their geography, looking at the ocean that is over here. And just in case you couldn't tell, this specific map had some white area where the land could have been, a few thousand years ago before anybody even drew maps of this area. So it could have been a lot larger. We don't know, but it could have been. So the California tribes are actually really diverse, meaning like lots of different, it is so diverse and different. The languages, there's so many languages there that one historian says that there's over 200 different dialects just in the California region. And it is more diverse, meaning more languages there than in Europe, which if you've seen a map of Europe, you've got Italian, you've got German, you've got Russian, you've got English, you've got Latvian. There's so many different languages. There's dozens of languages just in Europe because all those different countries. Yet California, their tribal languages is more diverse and varied than Europe. So I think that's pretty crazy. Is the most populated area among all these tribal groups, which makes sense to how populated it is now. It's a great area for it. It will feed a lot of people because of that, and because of being along the coast, because it'll be able to feed a lot of people. Most of the population is really dense on the coastal areas. Let's see. The Spanish explorers came to this area in the mid 1500s. And then later on in the 1700s, there was a mission established there, a Catholic mission established in San Diego. And that kind of started this period where there's a lot of brutality, forced labor, disease, assimilation, and, nearly extincting, a lot of different tribes. And that is similar to everywhere else. It just happened in California quicker than it did to the western half of the country. So some life ways, let's see. So in these California tribes, the technology and the materials that they use for building, for their tools, for their homes, for even storage containers are really similar. So back to where we talked about what makes a region, the thing that makes them similar is the tools that they use are similar. Their storage containers, their materials, their housing structures, they're similar to each other. One example is a mode of transportation, a canoe. A canoe was super popular. There's so many rivers over there, especially on the coast, that a canoe, the northern area of California and the southern area, both highly used canoes. The southerners, actually, they used huge canoes that would have like up to a dozen people. It would fit at least, how many did it say? I think it talked about at least 100 pounds of food. I don't remember where it talks about that, but it held a lot of food in these canoes. Let's see. So hunting, trapping, fishing, especially fishing was a huge thing. Makes sense too, because they're along the coast. Let's see. A lot of these California tribes used redwood, which is a specific tree. They're huge. If you've ever seen redwood trees out in California, they're humongous. And so a lot of California tribes, they use that wood, specifically that wood, for making their boats and their houses. And the way that they pull them down is basically they burned the bottom of them to make it fall, and then they split it with elkhorn wedges. And they used this redwood and sometimes cedar to make their homes, their canoes. Baskets were even used. There are a lot of basketry in California tribes, a lot of basketry and woven basketry, usually using redwood. So again, some of these cultural things are similar to all the different tribes. There's hundreds of tribes within California originally, and a lot of them use a lot of the same type of things. They let's see. They a lot of them have ceremonies to basically try to prevent natural disasters like earthquakes, floods, or crop failures, which makes sense with at least the earthquakes, because we know of the fault line, that San Andreas fault line. That's why California gets a lot of earthquakes. So it makes sense that that would be one of their main concerns is earthquakes. That's got to consider the geography of the area. So in a lot of those ceremonies, because natural disasters were so threatening to their people, there was a lot of attention to detail in a lot of these ceremonies. And, whenever they practice their traditions, so much detail has to be put into this. It's sometimes costly, even though a lot of tribes today are in poverty. It's still just so important to put those details and make it just perfect because of the purpose of trying to save lives from these natural disasters. So that's something that's common. Grass seeds, rabbit, deer, fishing, those are some common foods for California tribes. Let's see. A lot of the tribes were independent, but they were connected to other tribes in California through marriage, which makes sense because, that's just how a lot of tribes function. Let's see, each tribe did have a chief, sometimes female, whose duty was to organize things. They did have a virtual use of a hallucinogen Jimson weed, and that was mostly used in male puberty rituals. And they had 3 different classes. They had elite, a middle class, and a lower class as well. So they've got, social organizations, right? Just real quick, because we're out of time. Plains tribes are very mobile, so that's why the teepee was so popular among Plains tribes, because they had to move around a lot. Buffalo was their primary thing, as well as lots of different versions of grasses and lots of herbs that were in the area. And they had to make sure to find ways to preserve water because it just wasn't so readily available in the plains. There was a lot of dryness, especially that's the same way with the Great Basin. That's why pottery and in the Southwest, pottery is huge in these areas right here because you needed to preserve the water. So, pottery wasn't that big of a thing in California. The basketry was their thing, and that's because they have water, lots of rivers. It's great. Eastern woodlands are known as Eastern woodlands because they have, let's see, yep, we got 30 seconds, because they have so much wood in there. They lived in the woods and the forests and the trees. And so each of these regions, just to summarize, they're distinct in the region because of some of the ways that they live, their household structures, or the food that they eat, or the lifestyle that they have is similar. So that will kind of conclude our talking about tribal regions. Next week, I'll have a little activity. Again, I'll just remind you, I'll basically which area is the Great Plains? Okay, here's the Great Plains. Where's the plateau? Oh, there's a plateau. That's basically what we're going to be doing next week. So, and that's it for today. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. But if not, then we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.